Hello, everyone. This is Karen again with Naturally with Karen. And I've got a really interesting live stream today, which is going to sort of, tie in both dreams, vision, and why a lot of people from young children all the way up in age have reported that they feel sometimes kind of powerless. Sometimes people try to defend themselves in their dreams, or they wake up feeling really shaken. We're going to cover that. I'm going to see if we have some people that would like to join us live today. Live events, when you join us live, if you're able to do that. And I know, Sarah Reed, I want to acknowledge that your tablet that you're using isn't allowing you to do that. So thankfully, you can still watch these as non-live video events, which is kind of cool. And oftentimes what I've been doing recently is actually downloading the video from this page and then uploading it onto my YouTube channel, which is kind of nice. So we all know what dreams are. More and more, it's fire getting up. More and more often, I work with younger clients who tell me that they just don't really report remembering any dreams at all. They find that they just don't remember a dream, or they feel like maybe they just aren't even having dreams. And I want to tell you that you are, but it's also a facet of making sure, bless up, who's ever joining us, it's also a facet of making sure that all of your trace elements are balanced. We wouldn't even need to worry about that long ago because it would naturally be in your water, in your air, in all of the delicious foods that you ate. And I'm not talking about the big loaded Chinese buffet or, all the foods that we eat today, which are really have a lot of entertainment value. They're fun, right? We eat and eat and eat past satiety at buffets. But I'm talking about the fact that a lot of the trace elements like copper and zinc and iron really need to keep our brain working like it would work on an optimal level so that we would never be having short-term memory issues. We wouldn't have the brain fog. We wouldn't have any of those things. Just making sure that you guys can see me really clear because there's a lot of sun coming in through the window, so it's fidgeting around. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Not everyone can join in during the day. It is almost 2:15 Central Time here in Minnesota. With the sun coming in, you can't really see, but it's lightly snowing, and it is, let's see, I think it's about 15 degrees. 14 degrees right now. 14 degrees and snowy, okay? So let's dive in. A lot of people, including myself as a young child, meaning under the age of 10, I would be laying on the couch back home when living with my mom and dad, and I would have dreams that I was falling. And just before I would, kind of startle myself awake, I felt as if I was just falling and something was going to happen to me, like I needed to catch myself, and it startled me awake. So falling dreams are really, really common. And I'm going to talk, bless up, Amber, good to see you. I'm going to speak a little bit about falling dreams. Why are we falling? Why does it feel like when we're in the dream world, we can't really defend ourselves? We go to throw a punch, but it just seems like it's not really effective. We go to scream and, and let people know something's not right. Help, something doesn't look right as we're dreaming and we're not able to do it. And now I have another situation where I was working as a senior paralegal on 1635 the Alameda Street in San Jose. I was there with one firm for almost 10 years, so I memorized the address. And my partner, while I was pregnant with our son, who's now 23, was sleeping in a little late. He'd worked later in the evening than me and was calling me on my 10:30 break. And so when he didn't call like he said he would, I called the house phone, the landline at that time. So it was 1994 at that time. And he called me back about 10 minutes later when he didn't answer, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I don't want you to live here anymore. There's something really wrong with this place. I mean, there's big spiders, and you talk to people here and it just seems really weird. I don't know, I feel uncomfortable. But something held me down in the bed for like 10 minutes. I couldn't talk. I couldn't get up. I mean, I don't know what it is. It just was awful. And I said, well, on the phone, this doesn't, I've never, heard you talk about this before. I've never experienced that. Have you had this happen before? I mean, all the normal things you would probably say, right? Like, has this happened to you before? And I mean, are you safe? Is everything okay? I'm glad you're okay. And now throughout the years, 16 years being licensed and insured in Minnesota, working thousands of hours a year with my own clients have come to me and told me this, or younger clients especially have told me this. And I know it has something to do with stress. I know it has something to do with everyday occurrences and stressors in our life that render us into feeling more powerless than we really are. But I think as you deep dive with me and we get to the end of this live stream, whether you watch the whole thing with me right now or you pick it up later and you watch some of it later, I think you're going to really have a better grasp on what's really happening, okay? So you can't defend yourself, you can't protect yourself, you can't scream, you can't catch yourself because you're falling and falling endlessly, and then you startle and you wake up. I mean, if you've had that experience, just give me a blue thumbs up, because I've had that, but I know I was a child, okay? Now, I also remember being pregnant, my one and only time, and having a couple of nightmares where I left the baby carrier on top of the car. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I must be the biggest idiot. How could I possibly even dream that I was going to forget the baby on the car? But sometimes it's another powerlessness, right? And I found out later with working with so many clients that it's really, really common that mothers and sometimes even fathers felt the same way. Like, what if I forget to feed them? What if I forget them in a store? What if I forget them in the car? What if I do any number of things and I don't do the right thing because I'm a parent? And parents are held to a really high standard, right? I mean, so forgetting baby was one of those dreams that I had too, that I was going to forget baby and kind of drive away, or, anyway, and those things never happened. And if they did happen for someone, I just want to say, my goodness, sometimes we can be under so much glandular stress with our thyroid and lack so much energy, and then have given baby all those minerals, or multiple babies, lots of our body's minerals. And no one really ever informed us that there were other things we needed to do, because we have medicalized birthing today largely, almost exclusively. It's, more odd to see a woman that's home birthing, but I'm glad to say it's happening more and more. And I was one who had bought a birth kit and was planning to do a home water birth in a hotel that had a beautiful tub across from O'Connor Hospital, but our midwife got sick. Her name was Rain. Okay, so forgetting baby. So what does it mean that you have these dreams, right? Now, when I was in college and I took general psychology at West Valley, and I took physiological psychology, which sounds really incredibly important, but it really was just about the brain chemicals, the neurotransmitters, brain transmitters. So you hear about dopamine and serotonin, acetylcholine, and all these different chemicals that are coded chemicals that go and spread messages throughout the body, from the brain to the body. What's up, Natasha? Good to see you. I dreamed that I gave birth to a kid. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And it's really awesome to hear that you dream vividly. I really think that you're going to be really excited to hear about what I talk about with vision, because women in particular have a different effect on the brain. They have a much more estrogenic effect on the brain. And many, many generations of women have been really discouraged from using deep level innate, meaning it's already hardwired inside of you, brain and body, sensing and intuitive abilities. And they've been sort of cast into the new age, the, witchcraft. But really, if you're sitting in a signal light and, something tells you, I think you better get home fast, or just go anyway. Or you look down at the phone and you're thinking, I don't know why I keep thinking about my friend Betty. And Betty calls you and she goes, I don't know why, but I just keep thinking about you, right? Well, you guys just connected. That's intuitive, and it's simple, it's easy, and it's definitely a divine, innate part of you, an innate geared part of you, I should say. Okay. So we used to think when I went to college, we were taught in education, in academia, that there were 4 stages of sleep. Now, in recent years, there's actually been identified 5 stages of sleep. And when you go into a deep REM state, which I'm sure you all know, capital REM stands for rapid eye movement. Your eyelids are closed, but the eyeballs are going very quickly underneath the closed eyelids while you're sleeping, hopefully in a nice dark room. And during that time, it's when you're really synthesizing, making your DHEA and your other hormones that need to be made in the darkness. So you have hormones that need to be made in the light, like corticosteroid hormone, also known as vitamin D. And then you have hormones that need to be made in the darkness, okay, while you're sleeping in a dark room without a TV playing. So now we think of it as having 5 stages of sleep. The amygdala, which is the almond-shaped gland inside of your brain, basically, along with the functions of your brain, creates almost a temporary, and I figured this out, I didn't read it on anything online, so I could be wrong. This is what I have figured out, okay? I believe that the amygdala, which is responsible for startle and fear and anxiety and all of these, it gets hijacked in the opioid addiction. It starts activating during this deep level sleep process, and it creates almost a temporary anesthesia where the whole body just lets go, just like you would for a surgery. Does that make sense? When it does that, this is where people get what they call sleep paralysis, or they wake up and they go, oh my God, I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, it's horrible. People oftentimes do get woken up or startled awake during deep sleep, REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Your body is sending messages up to the brain, and the brain is also taking short-term memory, which is affected greatly by cannabis, right? And it is stuffing the memories that you need into the RAM, right? Into the subconscious and sometimes into the unconscious mind, no different than like a computer does. It is moving energy for you. Let me just see something for a minute. I think Kim is messaging me, and I'm going to let her know. And my parents, okay, just one moment. Let her know I'm here. There we go. And we'll come right back. Thanks for waiting. So your amygdala has everything to do with triggering this temporary paralysis by taking you out of fear temporarily during periods of your sleep ever so often. And we don't have empirical evidence-based medicine or science to like tell me it's every 3 hours or it's whatever, right? So we're going to do things like the great-great-great-grandmothers did in original medicine, which is we're going to learn to figure things out. And that's what I've done here, is I've put pieces together from this and that and this and that, and then I make a hypothesis, which means an educated guess. Okay? So the brain is basically, or the body is basically like shut down for a little bit while these memories are getting stored. Visual memories running across your cortex and getting stored into your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind as well. So these actions trigger, and this is why a number of people will feel like, what the hell's happening to me, you know? Why couldn't I move? Why couldn't I scream? Why couldn't I do anything? But there's another thing too, and I'm going to cover that, okay? Your amygdala is in your midbrain, so it is the area that really regulates fear. And fear is something that comes up about the age of 5. If you take, like I did, developmental psychology or child psychology in college, or read a book about it, or you have children and you're a mother, so you know as much or more than a psychologist on many levels, then you're aware that 5 is the age of fear. And that's where children start going, well, there's a monster under my bed. I know because I could hear them. There's monsters outside my window. Because, as Rudolf Steiner says, around the age of 3, the etheric connection between mother and toddler at the age of 3, right? 12 to 36 months is a toddler. 0 to 12 is an infant or a baby. Starts to realize that they're separate from mom and dad, and that they're potentially able to be harmed outside of being connected to mom and dad. And that reality starts becoming more and more real. Now, I think it's kind of interesting, and I want you to watch, because we have an HPA axis that doctors talk about quite a bit. Your hypothalamus, pituitary, third eye, adrenal axis, and I'm kind of wondering if we would have an HAA axis. Hypothalamus, amygdala, adrenal axis sounds more important to me, but in any event, they all communicate. But I'm bringing that up for a reason. So the other part of this live stream is, what is a vision? A dream is the brain processing information through the eyes, the nose, touch, experience, cognitive, throughout the day, and it's ordering it. It's putting it away in files, right? Maybe discarding some, maybe putting some over here in the subconscious. But what's the difference then if that's a dream, and you hear me, if you're on my personal or my Naturally with Karen page, or you've worked with me, you hear me speaking about vision. Vision is something different. Vision has always been known as the seer, or sighted, or an oracle, or a prophet. But truth be told, you all have the ability to vision. It's an aspect of human biology and physiology. It is you. It's innately already inside of you. And I can't even tell you how many people that I've worked with, especially in the last 34 years, to say, well, of course you can use this, and here's how you're going to get started. So let's define it first. A vision actually is about where you wake up and you retain some snippet or a great deal of information, and you feel like you were really there. You go and you have a conversation with someone who was in the dream or vision, and they say, well, that's really funny because that really happened to me. Or, I think I saw you as well in my dream last night. Or, right? And I'm speaking people that are really going to be respectful and have integrity. Let me give you some examples, because I wrote down 3, okay? I have a close family member that was in a situation, and they had gotten high. They had been taken to a hospital before they were taken to a detox center. And as I was sleeping in my room, I was dreaming, but then I went into vision. And I know this might sound really far out there for some people, but look me in the eyes, because I'm telling you the truth. And I've done it my whole life. And I know if there's anything that we do, we all do it, okay? It's just that you might not have ever been introduced. You may not have ever been guided to do it. You may not have ever felt you had permission to do it. But a vision is when I laid there, and all of a sudden I woke up, but I was still dreaming. My eyes weren't open on the physical. I wasn't laying down like I do on the floor. If you're on my YouTube channel, you can go over to my video called Floor Sleeping and Ditch the Pillow. In the dream, or the vision, because it was happening in real time, my phone was over in the corner with the volume shut off. I I just heard something. I immediately saw like I woke up and I was looking out through someone else's eyes and it wasn't me. I knew who it was, but it wasn't me. And I felt like as I was looking out of my eyes, it was kind of blurry, like I was altered, like I was drugged in some way, which I don't do. I don't do any medications. I don't do any drugs. I don't smoke cannabis. I'm not against it. It's a great medicine, but I don't right now in my life. Okay. I haven't drank alcohol for over 30 years. I have not owned a TV for 34 years. So aside from being in a hospital or a hotel, I don't see a TV. So I'm not Miss Goody Two Shoes. I've been through all that, but these are choices that I make. Okay. And so I wasn't on anything, no medication, no sleeping pill, not valerian root, nothing. I woke up physically with a, what was that? And I got up for a moment, went pee down the hall, and I was thinking to myself, wait, what was that again? I better remember it. This is the difference between vision. I felt drugged. I was looking through someone else's eyes, and I could see people kind of walking through the halls back and forth as I was in this state, and I was looking through someone else's eyes. This doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened a few times, especially if you're deeply connected with someone. It's not just going to happen to random people, more than likely, but it is going to happen to people, like your children, your mother and father, your grandparents, friends that you're just exceptionally close with. It could happen with people that you have a deep level connection. Okay. So I looked at my phone after I went to the bathroom, and sure enough, I'd missed a Facebook DM call, a messenger call. And the person was like, please, I need your help. Please, I'm in the hospital. Well, all of a sudden, duh, Karen, it made sense. This was at 1 something in the morning. And when I tried to call back, they said, well, can you come? And I said, no, I'm actually not going to come because you're going to be just fine. You're going to be there tonight. I'm glad you're okay. But that was one such instance of a vision. And yours might look totally different than that. I'll give you 2 others, okay? Here's another one. Okay. I had this one recently, less than a month ago. There was a dad who passed away many, many years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So it wasn't a few years ago, it was many years ago. And he was very comedic and he was great. And his mother had come in for massage. And I had sensed that she had bone cancer before she was officially diagnosed. And I could see it in the iris of her eye. I could see enormous numbers of lesions in her absolutely beautiful crystal blue eyes. What a beautiful spirit she she's passed. Her grandson is the same age as, or close to the same age as my son. And as I was sleeping, I had a vision. It was not a dream, it was a vision. So I'm giving you the clarification of one between the other. And I kept seeing his face, and he passed away from a type of cancer, and surgically and medically all throughout the end of this. And I asked my son and another young man that was here, could you please call so-and-so, I won't say for confidentiality, and let them know that I keep seeing their father. It's the second time now. And it seems like he's got an impending message to give to his son. So I found out just very recently that this young man was in the hospital for having a medical condition. And apparently what I've heard, and may or may not be true, he wasn't taking a certain medication he needed to take. And I have to wonder if that was Dad knowing that he could communicate and say, check up on my son. I'm not here. I love my son. I don't know. I only know that my grandmother was very, very open-minded, to exercising and developing intuitive abilities, not to be evil, not to be a witch, not to be crazy or hysterical, but because they're ours. And we found that it was a little suspicious, actually, to jeopardize our safety by not using a type of sensing that is equal to or greater than the standard packaging sensory apparatus that you have, which is the two eyes, the nose, ears, mouth, the touch, right? Now, so this young man was in the hospital in the last week. His father came to me in the last month 2 times. And I thought, well, that's really odd. So I said in front of the 2 young men around me, and I texted and talked to both of them yesterday, my son and the other young man. Both of them are under 25. And I said, do you remember me asking you to contact so-and-so because I keep seeing his father? Something is going on. And they said, yeah, but that's just really weird. Is it weird to feed our children from our breast? Is it weird to use what God gave you as sensory abilities if they help people? I'm not talking about hurting people. But if you are geared, or you believe God gave you, or you believe Buddha or Allah or whatever you believe, they're from nature, is it wrong to use something for the betterment of humanity? Should I have reached out to the young man and said, your father keeps showing up in my dream time in a vision, and I think there's something that I'm supposed to connect with you about? And you see, I have a comfort level of doing this with people because of doing this for so many years. I've overcome the shyness, the aversion, I don't feel quite comfortable. Now I just say it as kindly and respectfully, with as much integrity and honesty, without fluffing it, as I possibly can, to give it freely. I don't say, but you owe me $25 because your father keeps showing up and waking me up at night. I don't say that, okay? Now the last one is pretty huge because this comes around 2007, 8 or 9, somewhere in there. I had gone to Jamaica in 1994 and met my son's grandparents. They live in Montego Bay. And when I met my son's grandfather, he and I really connected. I mean, we sat there hugging each other, and he kind of kissed me on the cheek. And Grandma was kind of a little more aloof. You know, she was kind and loving, but she wasn't quite as warm and effuse as what we call Daddy. Daddy was a smaller, thinner man, Jamaican man, lovely man, my elder. And he was glad to meet me, and I was glad to meet him. And we were there in Jamaica for about 10 days, I think it was, in 1994. So that was the one and only time that I met Daddy. We didn't talk on the phone after that. He never got to meet his grandson, my son, none of it. I'm hoping to grow my business and take my son to Jamaica so he can meet some of the ancestors. I had a vision. I remembered it when I was driving down the street in our Ford Explorer at the time, heading to Duluth, and I was like, oh, whoa, I just got a reminder of it. Let me remember that for a moment. And I promptly got out my headset, connected it to my phone, called my son's father. We talk very, very seldom, very sadly. And I told him, I said, something's going on with Daddy. What I saw as a vision was that he has about a month left of life, and it's something to do with his heart. Please get him in and get his heart checked in Jamaica, or if he's down in Florida now with, the Auntie Marcia, please get him checked. Something's going on. Because many facets of the modern King James Bible have spoken so harshly about what is called divining, we're missing the boat. And what I mean by that is that these are not evil. I suppose they could be. But calling and giving someone a warning was, for me, information connecting with Daddy, my son's grandfather. I was connecting with him. I wasn't connecting with an evil spirit or a weird spirit out there. It was Daddy and I connecting, that his energy field knew that the end of his lifespan was coming. And I was able to receive transmission, neurotransmitters. I was able to receive the information. Here I am on the phone, on the headset. My son's in the back seat. I said, listen, I know you don't put a lot of credence and stock into this. I know it might even scare you, but I'm giving it to you because how would I feel if I didn't? I had a vision, and in that vision, I saw that Daddy had about a month left, and there was a heart issue that was brewing inside of him that was really rather, it was a lot. It could potentially kill him. Please, just all I'm saying is, it's not a death prophecy. I'm not a death angel. Nothing of the sort. I want you to have what I sense, what I felt, what I heard. I want you to have it because I would want it. I'd want to be able to do something if I possibly could. Go to the doctor, have someone check me out, get some help. That's the third vision that I'm sharing with you. I've had thousands and thousands, including seeing a man at my front door and going around the outside of my house who had intended to rape me the next day. But because I had the vision, I immediately, shut the windows and locked them when I was a teenager. And there's been way, way more than that. Like, I was traveling in Mexico and I heard, you need to leave now. And I went to leave now. And I was protected through a horrible, revolution down in Palenque and Chiapas. So that's what visions are. And dreams and visions are two separate things. You vision when you're meditating and you've taken your brain into, a theta or a gamma state, whichever you want to call. You've taken your brain into a very quiet place, a place where it's connecting with the field and not headset, not TV, not gaming. You're connected to the field. The field is pure energy, okay? Now, why would we feel so powerless? This is really the tail end of this video, this live stream here that I'm going to make into a video. Let me check on a loved one here. No. Okay, excuse me 1 minute. I had to grab that text back, okay? Why do people feel powerless? And what are monsters anyway? Well, we know what monsters are, but let me go into a little more detail. For a young child that used to be that they were never really congested and full of mucus, just like my going and getting some gas today over at the holiday station in Cloquet, and people are walking out with big gallon jugs of cow milk. We're not young cows. We don't need to nurse on mama cows that have been artificially inseminated. So our people start to look and behave and sound like monsters. The breathing and the mucus and the congestion and the wobbling and the soreness and the swollen faces and the edemic swollen eyelids and the thicker and thicker glasses because we keep eating our way into our demise. The other factor of powerlessness other than monsters is number one. Number two is, on the other hand, on the left-hand side, is mothers. We are disconnecting children from mothers in many ways, not only in 1942, World War II, where a lot of babies, stayed and mothers were very low functioning, a lot of alcoholism, the war, the Great Depression had gone on. I mean, there was a lot of grief and sorrow and anger and resentment and bitterness, okay? Now, mothers, we gave birth and baby came upon us and colonized their bacteria, The rest of their stem cells flowed through the umbilical cord. The placenta finished pulsing. It was used to plant a tree. Even in the 70s, the women at the places where I would go get food, and even in 1982 at the Bread of Life in Campbell, California, which was the first natural food store I started going to in 1982. Bread of Life in Campbell, California. I don't think it's even there anymore. Women would talk about, did you plant a tree? Did you use your placenta to plant a tree for your baby? And, everyone knew that. So the information and the knowledge or the wisdom, remember we talked about information becomes loaded with experience. And after loading with experience, it becomes knowledge. Now it's like you feel pretty certain it's true. Now knowledge is like the well-worn shoe that becomes wisdom. And wisdom is something that you just stick by. Like my grandma would always do this all the time. You'd stick by it all the time. Okay? Mothers were told in the 70s as I was coming up, your children are going to fare much better going to daycare. They're going to be smarter. They're going to be better equipped in the world. Studies have proven. And so from the 1970s forwards, especially being my grandmother's granddaughter and the way she taught me, I looked at allopathic medicine with a lot of scrutiny. I want to decipher what felt right and what felt wrong. Do we just treat and scan and check and treat and scan and medicate and remove body parts? Or was there another way? So, knowing that a young child sees this mucused up, hobbling and wobbling, often sexually deranged, look at the Catholic Church and look at many of the pastors and the priests and the rate of pedophilia and how it's becoming commonplace. You know in your heart that pedophilia is not right. It's not an action that should be taken. We all know that. But derangements, just like toxic brain, which I would love to do a live stream about very soon, and I work with quite often, is something we need to not only just look at, but we need to address it. The fundamental reason behind why dreams leave you powerless is the REM sleep, the deep REM sleep, the 5 stages of sleep that we talked about. But the last thing that I'm going to cover is that every human and every animal wants and needs 2 primary needs. 2 primary needs: safety and love. Okay? If you do not give an infant attention in the crib, in your bassinet, laying next to you, you ignore them, as what was done for one of my maternal ancestors during World War II in Kansas City, Missouri, you will create multiple generations of attachment disorder, is what it's called today through the DSM. Don't be surprised by this or by mothers being cold. I work with lots of women that have cold mother issues, and part of their healing journey is healing and repairing the disconnect with cold mother and helping them to get back on their feet and open their hearts and expand again. This is not psychotherapy on a couch. So yes, we share about your dreams. We share and encourage about your visions. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but people will say, I think I had a vision. Can I share it with you during our session? I go, absolutely. I'd love that. That's wonderful. The last piece, young children, 5 and under in particular. If you go out and you took a chicken and you were about to take your machete and cut its neck off and kill it so you could put a fresh chicken in your pot, most children would stop you and go, whoa, stop, don't, what are you doing? I can eat pineapple, I can eat papaya, I can eat cucumbers, I can eat salad, I can eat pasta, I can eat rice. Please don't kill that living being. Why? Because they're still connected. My grandmother knew that by the age of 5, even though she didn't know the psychology that I just gave you that I got at West Valley College in the 80s, that 5 is the psychologically developmental age of fear. So that's when you're going to start ordering logic all through your brain, your expectation of how you see the world and how you experience it. Okay. So I hope you got something great out of this. I hope that you'll go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Naturally with Karen. And I encourage you to think about doing a session for yourself through FaceTime, like you see me here right now. We're seeing each other in real time, maybe sipping our tea like I am here in my reusable mug, or through the telephone, always using my headset I've had for a couple years here so that I'm not putting this up to my head and destroying my brain and my thyroid. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Never any pressure on watching these. I hope this was a really good one. I hope that you choose to share it. And the more you celebrate and support me, the more celebrated and supported you will be when you become an elder, or if you are an elder right now, link up with me. Let's form a council of elders. But I have real original medicine. I've worked with people for thousands of hours a year. In at least 34 adult years, I've gathered a lot of experience and credentials and all kinds of things. Credentials I'm less concerned about. Competence I'm much more concerned. So, all right, you have a wonderful Friday, Saturday, or whatever day you're watching this. Stay warm and be well. So long.